You know the drill. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. Hey, wow, Zion. Chet, Tet, Yod. Kaf, Lamed. Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin. Pei, Tzadei. Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau. Let's turn to chapter 8, page 67. We're going to be discussing pronouns. Pronouns, hopefully, you have had some background in your English grammar about what a pronoun is. It replaces a word that is in the previous part of the sentence or clause, usually a noun, and therefore the pronoun refers back to that noun that's called the antecedent, the one before. Often use this so that we don't have to have such repetition of the noun. So we use pronouns as a way of, if you will, tightening up our speech, our communication, a word that replaces a noun. Remember that a personal pronoun can replace a noun that can be expressing a person, a thing, an idea, a place, and it is designated by being first, second, or third, or as we will often see in our paradigms, third person, the further away, second person, a little bit closer, and first person, me, myself, and I, as close as you can get. So in terms of proximity, we think of third person, then second person being you, and then first person, me, myself, and I. We often will label first person pronouns as common because they do not have grammatical gender. They're not inflected for grammatical gender, whether masculine or feminine. We will see masculine and feminine forms in the second person and masculine and feminine forms in the third person. The way to approach this chapter is to take the personal pronouns as vocabulary and have vocabulary cards for each one. Let's take a look at this chart on page 67. Again, we sort of go from the sphere of the third person to then the sphere of the second person, and then to my own personal sphere with common singular, whether it's uh, um, me, or maybe I include us, the common plural as well. So let's all go down the columns in the singular, and then we'll go down the columns in the plural. Third masculine singular is the Abbott and Costello routine. You may have heard of that. It's getting older and older as we move forward in time, but back in the day, the great joke was who's on first. Who was the name of a person, or in my day, who was the name of a band. In Hebrew, who is he or it. So the hey with the shurek aleph can refer to he or a masculine thing, it. And then in the third feminine singular, she or a feminine it is he. So who is he and he is she? Somewhat confusing. Don't get caught up in our current political climate with how to understand Hebrew. If I hear you trying to use this to convey some type of social change or social environment of our current day, I will get in my car and drive to your house, and we'll have a long talking. Okay, do not do that. Do not impose our current cultural climate on the Hebrew. It's a neat way to help memorize the words, but it's not a way to exegete and then preach. And sadly, on the internet, yes, there are sermons that abuse this. So, who is he and he is she? You'll also see it as Hugh. That's a hey with a hirek. Wow. Aleph. Notice the footnote number one. An odd form, but does appear in the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the books of Torah, the books of Moses. For the second masculine singular, moving into a closer sphere, it is ata, ata. So it's a aleph with a patak, followed by a tau with a dagesh forte, followed by a comet's hey. So two-syllable at-ta, meaning you. And then the second feminine singular, there is some debate about how this should be pronounced. You'll see some differences if you listen to anything online that is reading the scriptures in Hebrew. I like to just keep it a little bit like a two-syllable, only so that I remember to put in that shva. So atta, atta, a very short second syllable, but that would be challenged by several Hebrew scholars. That's my approach. I will encourage you to just find your own approach and be consistent. Atta, atta. We're going to see this appear later in the semester with other forms. So if you remember from our study of shva, a shva that ends a word is silent. However, some argue that this is actually a dagesh forte, and therefore it's at t, at t. So you got two rules of shva fighting here. Is it short then silent, or is it two shvas go walking, the second one does the talking? And this is why we have food fights at Hebrew linguistic conferences. Do what's helpful for you to be consistent and to memorize this. Atta, you, feminine. And then lastly, the closest sphere, me, c'est moi, c'est moi. And so there are two forms, the ani, that's an aleph with a hatef patak, followed by a nun with a hirek yod, or anochi, anochi, anochi. That's an aleph with the comets, followed by a nun with a holum, followed by a kaf with a hirek yod. Anochi, anochi, anochi. Let's go to the plural column. So there are two forms in the plural column, the haim, that's a hey with a tsere followed by a final form mem, or it's a hema, tone syllable on the p note, hey with the tsere followed by a mem. To close that syllable, there's a dagesh forte in that mem, and then we have another mem to open up the next syllable followed by a comet's hey. Hema, meaning they, masculine. In the feminine, plural for third person, you'll see hain. It's a hey with a tsere and a final form nun. Hain, and you do see the alternate form haina, That's a hey with the tsere nun. That's the accent, the tone syllable on the p note, and then we have the next syllable with the nun, comet's hey. So there is a dagesh forte in that nun. And some people like to highlight that for helping to memorize sometimes masculine. You got that sound as in men, sound as in men, so the M type sound. And then I won't say who came up with this, but you definitely, if you've been on a Friday night on the tube in London, you'll see some ladies out and they're having what they call, I think, a hen night. So if that helps you remember those women, hain, the hen night, to just get it clear in your mind for memorization. Notice for the second masculine plural, Pratico and Van Pelt, I guess they need to live more down in the South because this should be you all or y'all. Not just simply you, it's plural. So y'all. And we would have this be atem. Again, here the dagesh forte in the tau. So it's a aleph with a patek followed by a tet to close the syllable. And then because of the dagesh forte, the next syllable is a tet with a segol mem. Atem, atem. And then for the second feminine plural, for you all, right? At-te-na. At-te-na. Sorry, get that tseri going. At-te-na. 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 So an aleph with a patak, followed by a tau with a dagesh forte with the tseri. This is the accented syllable, and then the final syllable, nun, with the comet's a. And lastly, we, the one common plural. We, one common plural. It is anachnu, anachnu, anachnu. So an aleph with a hatef patak. The accented closed syllable is the nun patak. Chet, with the silent schwa. Two things to help us here. First of all, chet as a guttural letter does not take vocal schwa, but it will take a silent schwa. And secondly, the two tutor tommies, right? Silent, short than silent. So it's going to be a silent schwa following that short A-class vowel. And then the last syllable is a nun with a shurek. Nachnu. Nachnu. And we can see this in various clauses or sentences. We often will supply a verb of being to help finish the predication. So the personal pronoun being the first part of the sentence or clause, and the predicate aspect of the sentence maybe being another noun or a noun with an adjective. Let's take a look at the examples here. Ani Adonai. Ani Adonai. Ani Adonai. Or how about Hu Navi Zadik? Hu Navi Zadik. Hu Navi Zadik. Or how about Ata Melech Tov? Ata Melech Tov. Ata Melech Tov. Or Achim Enachnu. Achim Enachnu. Achim Enachnu. If we wanted to say she is a wise woman, he Isha Hechama. He Isha Hechama. He Isha Hechama. And then lastly, you are in the great city. Let's unpack this one a little bit. So hopefully by now you're being comfortable with the personal pronouns. So atem, you all. That's why they have to give the second masculine plural. They should just say y'all. Atem. And then we have ba'ir. Ba'ir. Well, we recognize hopefully two vocabulary words here. Ir, meaning city, and then you see the bait preposition, but the bait preposition does not have the expected vocal schwa. It has a comet. Why? Because the bait preposition has punched out the hey of the definite article. The hey of the definite article had a patak with a dagesh forte in the next consonant, but the ayin is a guttural letter and has rejected the dagesh forte, so there's compensatory lengthening with that patak under the hey, and so we have the appearance of the comets due to compensatory lengthening, and with the preposition punching out the hey, the appearance of the bait. So it's ba'ir, ba'ir. This would be in the city, in the city. So it's got a preposition, is what we would call a prepositional phrase. It's got the definite article, and if you remember, city is feminine singular, ear is feminine singular. And then our next word, take a look at that. Haggedolah, Haggedolah, Haggedolah. So here we have from gadol, the masculine singular lexical form, but it's now feminine singular because we've added the comets hey. And so with propretonic reduction, the appearance of the vocal schwa under the gimel is a begad kapat letter, but it has a dagesh forte because of the definite article, hey, with the patak and the dagesh forte in the next consonant. So the dagesh lina that is expected has now become a dagesh forte here. Therefore, hag, g, do, la. Haggedolah. Atem ba'ir Haggedolah. Atem ba'ir Haggedolah. One more time. Atem ba'ir Haggedolah. Turn to page 68 and let's take a look at demonstratives. Again, I would encourage you to think of these as vocab lists. Make vocab cards. Don't just do a chart. Probably at some point in my life, I might come up with another silly song. But right now, there really is no cadence to this that I have been able to discover. basically learned this with the personal pronouns. So let's take a look at the masculine singular. This is expressing the near demonstrative, meaning closer to us in proximity. So ze, ze, zayin segol he, ze. And then the feminine singular of the near demonstrative is zot, zot, zayin, aleph, there's a holum there, zayin, holum, aleph, tau, zot, zot, this, referring to a feminine book, table, lamp, that's close. Now, if we were to do a far demonstrative, so not this one, but that one over there, far demonstrative, it's a little bit further away, so it's not near, but far. We have who as the masculine singular. Now that looks very similar to the pronoun, third masculine singular pronoun, who is he. Well, context will help you determine whether it's referring to the pronoun or the demonstrative. Same with the feminine singular, he, right? We joked he is she or feminine it. Well, it can also be a far demonstrative, so that, he. So they, zot, who, he. And then for the plural forms, watch our accents here. So here for the far near demonstrative masculine plural, near demonstrative masculine plural, el le, ele, ele. Notice the dagesh forte in the lamed. So the tone syllable is on the penult. You have the aleph with the tsere, and then a lamed closing that first syllable. So el, and then the next syllable is a lamed segol hey. El le, ele, ele. And unfortunately, you don't have to learn a new vocab, but you have to realize that it can be masculine plural or feminine plural, and context will determine whether the antecedent or whether the item being discussed is feminine or masculine. So again, ela, ela, ela. Again, for the near demonstrative plural here, meaning these, if we were to communicate it in English. And fortunately, we have some difference in the masculine plural and the feminine plural in terms of the demonstratives, but these harken back to the third masculine plural and third feminine plural of the personal pronouns. Context, context, context. So haim or hema, haim, hema can mean those or it can mean they from the personal pronouns that we learned. Same with the feminine plural, far demonstrative here. Hain or haina, haina, hain, haina, those, feminine plural, demonstrative, far demonstrative. Context is going to help you determine whether it's a personal pronoun, whether third masculine plural or third feminine plural, or a far demonstrative. Let's unpack that concept of how we're having both a personal pronoun and then the demonstrative pronoun having the same form. Again, context, context, and context. So, hu ha'ish, hu ha'ish. In certain contexts, the who is a personal pronoun and it's referring to the English translation, he is the man. Hu ha'ish. But perhaps in certain contexts, it might be functioning as a demonstrative pronoun. That is the man. Hu ha'ish. Same as well with he ha'isha. He ha'isha. She is the woman when it's functioning as a personal pronoun, when he is functioning as a personal pronoun. And if it's functioning as a far demonstrative pronoun, that one is the woman. He ha'ashish. That one is the woman. That is the woman. And again, notice in number 2 here, as we've mentioned, with ele, ele, these, masculine and feminine. This is called common. And so we're not going to inflect it for masculine or feminine. It can take uh, masculine or feminine nouns as what it's modifying. Notice also that there are some variants to these. They do not need to be memorized because of their infrequency. I won't even read them so that you don't get into your mind. But just to kind of put a little circle around that. They won't appear on the final exam, but at some point you're going to see that and you're going to say, boy, that looks like something. And you may have to end up using your grammar or a lexicon to help you out or your internet tools. The idea of getting a grammar is to get something that stays with you for the rest of your life. An introductory grammar, at some point you're going to get ahead of in terms of understanding, but it should still remain on your Hebrew shelf of your bookshelf because it can be a helpful resource. Let's take a look at demonstratives. We've already seen them as near and far, but in terms of their uses, they can function as an adjective or they can function as a pronoun. So they can function adjectively or they can actually replace a noun. And let's focus in again on those. So they can be used as either adjectives, as we've seen, this man, those men, basically in terms of particularizing or specifying a person, thing, idea, or it can be replacing. So specifying or replacing may be a good way of thinking of the two functions of the demonstratives. So in terms of pronouns, especially seeing that in some type of predicate statement or predicate clause, this is the man, those are the women's. You're going to have to basically just be aware of this and notice here on page 73 the two inserted paragraphs. The A, Hebrew demonstrative function like an adjective, and they will follow the noun it modifies and agree in grammatical gender, number, and definiteness. So to help you, demonstrative adjectives have similar rules as attributive adjectives. When a demonstrative functions like an adjective, it will follow the same rules as an attributive adjective. Hopefully that's helpful to you. So ha'ish hazeh, ha'ish hazeh, this man. It's specifying in terms of it functioning adjectively. This man. When a Hebrew demonstrative is functioning as a pronoun, it will precede the noun it modifies and agree in grammatical gender and number, but not definiteness. Now, hopefully that sounds familiar to you. Yes, it's very similar to a predicate use of the adjective. So the predicate use of the adjective helps us to see when a demonstrative is functioning like a pronoun. So inserted paragraph A is very similar to an attributive use of the adjective. Inserted paragraph B is very similar to the predicate use of the adjective, preceding the noun, agreeing in grammatical gender and number, but not definiteness. So in this case, ze ha'ish, ze ha'ish. This is the man. And just like with predicate use of the adjectives, we have to supply a verb of being. Ze ha'ish. This is the man. Let's focus on demonstrative adjectives, whether they're near or far. Near being this, close proximity, far being the ones over there. So when a Hebrew demonstrative functions like an adjective, again, it follows the noun it modifies and agrees in grammatical gender, number, and definiteness, whether it be both having the definite article or both the noun and the demonstrative not having the definite article. They're going to agree. This is just like the attributive use of adjectives that we saw in chapter 7. So, ha'ish hazeh, ha'ish hazeh, this man. Now, if we were going to just read this right to left in Hebrew and have to do all the mental work to understand, we would be saying definite article plus the noun, the man, and then definite article plus the demonstrative, the this one. The man, the this one, or communicating more appropriately in English as this man. Ha'isha hazot. Ha'isha hazot. This woman. Ha'isha hazot. If we wanted to do the far demonstrative, ha'ish hahu. Ha'ish hahu. Ha'ish hahu. That man, the one over there, that man. Again, if we were just to read it from right to left, definite article plus the noun, definite article plus the demonstrative. The man, the that one over there. But better to express it in a more smoother English, that man. Or ha'isha hahu hahi. Ha'isha hahi. Ha'isha hahi. That woman. On page 70, as we try to not just move right to left, but we got a little Batman slant going on here, we can have adjectives within the sentence. So in the case of the first example, ha'isha hatova hahi. Ha'isha hatova hahi. So here we have the definite article plus the feminine singular noun. Then we have the definite article plus the feminine singular adjective. And then we have the definite article plus the demonstrative, the far demonstrative. Obviously, here in context, we see that it's not a personal pronoun, but rather a far demonstrative. Ha'isha, hat tova, hahi. That good woman. Let's take a look at these good men. Ha'anashim. There we have the definite article plus the masculine plural noun. Again, remember this is that irregular form from ish, the appearance of that noon. So ha'anashim, masculine plural, got that hirek yod mem, sus, susim. Then we have the definite article plus the adjective plus the masculine plural ending, right? Tov, tovim, hatovim. So ha'anashim, hatovim. And then we have the demonstrative, the masculine plural. We know it's masculine plural because of the previous adjective and noun being masculine plural. So context, context, and yes, context. We got some compensatory lengthening on the definite article because the patak that we expect is a comets. That's because the guttural letter aleph has rejected the dagesh forte. So ha'ele, ha'ele, ha'ele. And we know this is functioning like an adjective and not a pronoun because it agrees in grammatical gender, number, it follows, and it agrees in definiteness because it has the definite article. We see this as well in the third example. Note again that feminine plural has that eem ending, that irregular, unexpected ending, but hopefully becoming somewhat more um, able to identify because you've seen it so much. So hanashim or hanashim, hanashim, hanashim plus hatovot, 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 and then ha'ele, 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 ha'anashim, hatovot, ha'ele. Again, they're all feminine plural, they're all definite, and the adjective and the demonstrative, in this case the near demonstrative, follows the noun, and therefore the adjective is functioning attributively and the demonstrative is functioning adjectively. I know that's a lot of words in the mouth, and trust me, just trying to say it clearly and concisely in this slide is difficult. But I want you to be able to understand what's happening grammatically and in particular syntactically, because once we get into Hebrew scriptures, we're going to be seeing this all over. Let's take a look at those good men. Those good men. So that's a far demonstrative. Those over there, right? So ha'anashim, hatovim, hachem. Ha'anashim, hatovim, hachem. Ha'anashim, hatovim, hashem. So here we have all three are definite with the definite article. Some of them have, because of the guttural letters, compensatory lengthening. They all have masculine plural endings, right? The noun with sus, susim, the adjective tov, tovim, and we have with the haim, of course, it being a masculine plural form. So they agree in grammatical gender, number, definiteness, and both the demonstrative, the far demonstrative, and the adjective follow the noun they are modifying. So we communicate it in English as those good men. We see this again with those good women. Hanashim, Hanashim. Again, even though it's an eem ending, it's feminine plural. So the adjective and the far demonstrative are going to continue the consistency of their own paradigm. So even though it's Hanashim, it's Hatavot. And then it's Hahena, Hahena. Hanashim Hatavot Hahena. Hanashim Hatavot Hahena. Demonstrative adjectives agree with their nouns in grammatical gender, number, definiteness, and are usually after. In fact, it's more consistent that demonstrative adjectives are going to be after than, say, the attributive adjectives. You can almost guarantee that you're going to have demonstrative adjectives following the nouns that they are modifying. What about demonstrative pronouns? Another slanted slide just to keep us awake. Demonstrative pronouns, like the predicate use of adjectives, are going to precede, normally, the noun and agree in grammatical gender and number, but not definiteness. Precedes the noun, agree in grammatical gender and number, but not definiteness. Functioning like a pronoun, and since we call them demonstrative pronouns. So with the near demonstrative pronoun ze, it appears before the noun that it is modifying in the sense of predication. So it appears before ha'ish. It agrees in grammatical gender, masculine. It agrees in number, both are singular, but it does not agree in definiteness. Ha'ish has a definite article. So ze ha'ish. Ze ha'ish. This, the man. And we supply the verb of being because it's a predicate function here. It's functioning as a pronoun, and so it's this one is the man. This is the man. We see that also in the feminine. Zot ha'isha. Zot ha'isha. This one, near demonstrative, this one, she is the woman. We have to supply that verb of being. Zot ha'isha. Let's take a look at some more examples on page 70. Hu ha'ish. Hu is the far demonstrative, masculine singular, no definite article, and it is preceding or is before the noun ish with the definite article. So hu ha'ish, that is the man. We again supply the verb of being. He ha'isha. He ha'isha. That is the woman. He ha'isha. That is the woman. And then we have, with the near demonstrative plurals, el, la, el, la, ela, ela, ha'anashim. Ella ha'anashim. Ella ha'anashim. Ella ha'anashim. These are the men. Ella is the masculine plural. right? Near demonstrative, no definite article, but the masculine and plural agree with the masculine plural of the noun, but the noun is definite. See this the same with saying these are the women. Ella, Ella Hanashim. Ella Hanashim. Again, knowing your vocab helps to recognize that though it has the eem ending, it's still a feminine plural from Isha. It's definite because it has the hey with the patak and the dagesh forte doubling the next consonant. So these are the women. Ella ha'anashim. Ella ha'anashim. How about we go with the far demonstrative, haim ha'anashim. Haim ha'anashim. Haim ha'anashim. And then for those are the woman, Hena, Hena Hanashim. Hena Ha'anashim. Hena Ha'anashim. Notice we have that dagesh forte in the noon because of the definite article hey with the patak. So Hena Hanashim. Hena Hanashim. And as you start to read it, some of those get to be smoothed out. But for just stopping and pausing and making sure that you understand the dagesh forte in those noons, both of them, hain na han na shim, hena hanashim, hena hanashim. Demonstrative pronouns agree with their nouns in grammatical gender, number, so you can have uh, singular, plural, masculine or feminine, but they are in concord. They agree with the nouns that they are replacing, but they will not agree in definiteness. The idea is that you're in a particularly a predicate clause or a predicate sentence, and oftentimes these demonstrative pronouns come first. This would be a good quiz slide. Some of you are very familiar with Psalm 118:24. Perhaps you know the song, this is a day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. And people are dancing to it, and you say, do you not understand the context of this verse? You know, the idea that the stone that the builders rejected, well, it does become the chief cornerstone. So maybe there is celebration in that. But in the midst of that context, or as you move towards, there is great contemplation and humility should be observed prior to the dancing. That is oftentimes the case when people sing about this is the day. They think it's referring to waking up in the morning and saying, oh, my Lord, what a morning. All right. But I've used this in the Hebrew to help me keep clear about demonstrative pronouns. Maybe this will help you. I hope so. So I sing ze hayom. So here we have the near demonstrative ze, masculine singular. It's attached with the makef, the elevated hyphen, to a hey with the patak and the dagesh forte and the yod, doubling the yod, signaling that this is a definite article on the word yom, meaning day, the day. Notice that there's a definite article on the noun, but not a definite article on the demonstrative. So in this case, the demonstrative, the near demonstrative, is not functioning adjectively, but like a pronoun. So ze hayom, and I've got to supply a verb of being. This is the day. So to help me learn my grammar rules regarding demonstrative pronouns, and it also helps me to remember adjectives that are functioning as predicate adjectives, I remember this song, Ze Hayom, Ze Hayom. So I say, oh, it precedes, it agrees in grammatical gender, it agrees in number, but it does not agree in definiteness. This little song helped me survive Hebrew 1. Ze Hayom, Ze Hayom. And then just to finish it out and help you to maybe have a song that you can sing, the next word is asa. That's an ayin with a comet, sin with a comet's hey. Asa, it's a verb that we'll learn later in the semester, followed by the divine name. In this case, with the song, it's Hashem, Hashem, so we don't say the divine name. So Asa Hashem, the name, if you will. You could use Adonai. You could say Yahweh. He's the one that Asa does this. And what happens? Nagila, Nagila. So Nun with a comets, Gimel with a Hirek Yod, followed by a Lamed with a comets Hey. Nagila. Then we have a conjunction Wow, W, right? The Wow with the vocal Shva. A Nun with a Hirek, followed by a Sin with a silent Shva closing the syllable, because short than silent are two tutor Tommies. So Wanis. And then we have the Mem with a vocal Shva, the other two tutor Tommies, which is when two Shvas go a walking, the second one does the talking. So M. And then a Chet with a comets Hey, so it's Cha. And then we have a bait preposition with a third masculine singular pronominal suffix that we'll learn in chapter 9. So it's vo. There's no dagesh lina in the bait because it follows that comets Hey. So for just pronunciation, it just has vo. So if we were to read this incomplete, or completely, probably is a better way of expressing that adverbally. So ze hayom asa Hashem Nagila Wanismacha Vo. Ze Hayom Asa Hashem Nagila Wanismaha Vo. And you can have this song help you again to remember when demonstratives are functioning like a pronoun, and it also helps as a way of remembering the rules for when adjectives are functioning as predicates, predicate adjectives. Ze hayom. It agrees in grammatical gender, number. In this case, it precedes, and it does not have the definite article, not agreeing in definiteness. You can also use this slide if you don't want to sing a song and dance. Demonstrative pronouns agree with their nouns in grammatical gender, number, not definite, and usually before. Let's take a look at demonstrative pronouns and attributive adjective together. So the first one, ze ha'ish hatov. Ze ha'ish hatov. This is a good man. We supply the verb of being because the near demonstrative is acting as a pronoun. This one is the man, the good one. Notice again that the tov with the definite article, masculine singular, is functioning attributively. It's following the noun and it's agreeing in grammatical gender, number, and definiteness. So this is the good man. Ze ha'ish hatov. Now let's look at the plural forms of these. So we have the near demonstrative functioning as a pronoun, the masculine plural. So el, I have to try to really highlight that so you can get the first of all the dagesh forte and the lamed, and then that tsere with that liquid lamed makes it el. And then the accent, the tone syllables on the penult. So it's ella, ha'anashim, hatovim. So again, we see that the demonstrative pronoun agrees in grammatical gender and number, but not definiteness, and it's preceding. So these, and then we supply the verb of being, and then we have a definite article, noun, masculine plural, with a definite article, adjective, masculine plural. So the adjective is functioning attributively, describing the quality or characteristic of the noun that it's modifying. We see this as well with the next example. He, ha'isha, hatova. He ha'isha hatova. He ha'isha hatova. So here we have the far demonstrative functioning like a pronoun, standing in the place for, if you will, And so you might even, just depending on context, be aware of this, since he is also can be a personal pronoun. That could be she is the good woman. She is the good woman. I know I'm throwing in a wrench in the well-oiled machine of your mind, but this is where and context play out. So he, ha'isha, hatova. And then we can also see that with the feminine plural, hena, hena, and trying to get those nuns with the dagesh forte. So hanashim, 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 and then hatovot, hatovot. So we have the feminine plural, far demonstrative, functioning like a pronoun, and we have to supply the verb of being. So those are, and then we have the feminine plural noun with the definite article and the feminine plural adjective with the definite article. So the feminine plural adjective is functioning adjectival because it agrees in grammatical gender, number, definiteness, and here following the noun, it is modifying. The relative pronoun. This introduces what is often referred to as a relative clause. It can be showing a relationship or providing further information about a noun or a previous clause. Sometimes we might think of where in English we put a comma, and so we're showing some unpacking of the previous noun. In this case, with our first example, we have ha'etz, ha'etz, ha'etz. It's a hey with a comets followed by an ayin. The ayin has rejected the dagesh forte of the definite article, so the compensatory lengthening of the expected patak becomes a comets, and then underneath the ayin, the tsere, followed by the final form tsade. Some people think that the writing of this, the orthography of this, actually looks like what it is, a tree, right? A tree with some branches, that final form tsade and that ayin. So the tree, and then we unpack it with asher, asher, asher. Aleph with the hatef patak, followed by the second syllable with a shin, segol, resh. Asher, asher. And then just to finish this out, betok hagan, betok hagan, betok hagan. So ha'etz asher betok hagan, the tree. Which one or what one are you referring to? Give us a little more information, unpack it a little bit. The one which or that is in the middle of the garden. Betok, hopefully you recognize that preposition, and then followed by a definite article plus the noun garden. So here we see the relative pronoun introducing a relative clause, further information, unpacking either the noun prior to it or perhaps some other clause. Let's take a look at the next example. Here we have he harim. He harim. Now, this one's tricky because you're looking and saying, what is that? You know your vocab and you say, oh wait, hair, mountain, hair. And here we have that definite article when it comes up against the hey gets a segol. So there's our definite article, and then with the added heavyweight eem ending for the syllable stabilization, we're going to have some reduction, or in this case, because it's one of those forms that does have a change, a comets appears under the hey. So this is a definite masculine plural noun, he harim. He harim, the mountains. Which mountains? Well, we use the relative pronoun to help unpack further information. Asher tahat, asher tahat, asher tahat. The ones that are under, and then we have hashamayim, hashamayim, the heavens. So we got the relative pronoun attached to a preposition and then followed by the noun with a definite article. You're going to see asher all over the place in the Hebrew scripture. It's going to become your friend. You're going to be, when I'm looking at ancient manuscripts, ancient Hebrew scripture manuscripts, when I see an asher, I'm like, okay, I got myself situated. I know this is introducing a relative clause. It helps me find nouns, it helps me find verbs. So asher is a good friend of yours. How about Hamelech? Hamelech asher bechartem. Bechartem. So let's walk through this. You should know by now Hamelech. I won't go too much into that. Hopefully you see the definite article. And then you see the asher, the relative pronoun. And then we have a noun, a verb, which you haven't yet learned about verb forms. So it's a bait with a dagesh lina because it's in the initial consonant of the begad kapat letter, and then it has a vocal schwa, so b, and then we have a chet with a patak followed by a resh with a silent schwa, so cher, becher, tem, a tau with a dagesh lina followed by a segol final form mem, becher tem. So Hamelech asher bechartem. Hamelech asher bechertem. Let's take a look at the last example, explaining or unpacking or giving us further information about David. David asher. David asher bebeit Adonai. David asher bebeit Adonai. So we have the proper noun David unpacked, given further information with the relative pronoun asher. Then we have a preposition plus bayit, and that changes not just because of the preposition, but because it's in what we call a construct relationship with the noun that follows, in this case, the proper noun, the name of the Lord, the divine name, Adonai, or Yahweh, or Hashem. So the bait preposition giving us in, and we know that this is going to be uh, definite, not because there's a definite article there, but because it's attached to a proper noun. So bebeit Adonai, bebeit, in the house of Yahweh. If you look on page 74, there's a nice summary. Sometimes when I'm looking at the chapters, I'll read the summary statements first and then go back. So, summary statement number 4, talking about the relative pronoun asher, asher. Who, whom, whose, which, that. So, depending on context, if it's talking about a person, uh, about something that's going to a person, about someone who owns something or possesses something or a thing. You just have to think in terms of the context. What's the best English gloss for a share? Number 5, as we've learned with our vocabulary, we're looking at some of the most common interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns are ones that are asking a question, right? Interrogating. Interrogative pronouns such as me, that's the continuation of our Abbott and Costello sketch. Me is who, right? Who is he, and he is she, and me is who. So who or whom. And then we talked about ma, what, ma. So when they were in the wilderness and they received the bread from heaven, they said, ma na. What is it? Ma na. What is it? Ma. What? These do not inflect. They can have relational connection with other words using the makef, that elevated hyphen. And then number 6 is another interrogative particle. Basically, it is taking a sentence, and when it's attached to the first word of the sentence, creates a question. Most often it is spelled hey with a hatef patak, but sometimes it can be a hey with a patak or a hey with a segol, especially before guttural consonant with comets. Let's take a look at, first of all, interrogative pronouns. So, ma shemo. Ma shemo. You're like, what is that Dagesh forte doing there? How can that be possible if there's the beginning of the word. It has to do with the makef, and so it's somewhat closing the first syllable. So mash, um, shemo. So mash shemo. So there is sort of a dagesh forte occurrence here. Again, having to do with the makef, uniting the two words into one word unit. So mash shemo, mash shemo, mash shemo. What is his name? This is the uniqueness again of words that are joined by the makef. They're thought of as a single word unit. And so in terms of scribal activity, the idea is the first shin closes off mach, sh, and then the second syllable is sh. That's a shin with a vocal schwa. And then the third symbol is mo, the mem with the hole and well. Ma shemo. And let me tell you, I had to do some research to unpack that. Next one is ma ha halom, ha halom, right? Ha halom is dream, definite article, uh, bumping up against a het. This is that I like your tie. The tie and the handkerchief match, so the hatef patak there helps the definite article say I'm just going to have a patak. Kind of nice little sound to it. Virtual doubling occurring here as well to keep the consistency of the short A class. So ma hachalom, ma hachalom, and then we have a near demonstrative functioning like an adjective because it agrees in grammatical gender, masculine, number, singular, definite, yes, because it has the hey with the patak and the dagesh forte in the next consonant, and it's following. So ma hachalom hazeh, hazeh, hazeh. Ma hachalom hazeh. Ma hachalom hazeh. What, we supply the verb of being, is this dream? Or if we were just to read it right to left, what the dream, this one, and then we have to again smooth it out into English. How about asking someone, you haven't learned the verb form here, but here we see the interrogative pronoun with the segol hey, me asita, me asita, me asita. What have you done? Or mi ata, mi ata. Who are you? Mi ata. Who are you? Mi ata. Who are you? And remember, with the makef, it's a word unit, so you're kind of moving the accent along with the entirety of the word unit. Miata, miata, who are you? And then how about who is this man? Once again, having the near demonstrative functioning like an adjective, excuse me, like an adjective, and it's agreeing in grammatical gender, masculine, number, singular, definiteness, yes, they both have the definite article, and it's following. So, mi ha'ish hazeh, mi ha'ish hazeh, mi ha'ish hazeh. Who is this man? Mi ha'ish hazeh. This is something very similar to the end of chapter 1 of Ruth. Look it up. The women, when they see Ruth approaching, take a look. If you got a Hebrew scripture, or go online and look up various Hebrew scriptures that are available. Put in Ruth chapter 1 and just look through, and you're going to see so many forms now that you're able to recognize. How about this last one? Mi ha'anashim ha'el, right? Who, we have to supply the question mark as well as the verb of being. Who, uh, the men, these ones. Who are these men? Let's talk about the interrogative particle. So we've met two interrogative previously, these pronouns, the me and ma. But now if we wanted to change a sentence from being declarative, stating something, into asking something interrogative, asking a question, we attach to the first word of that sentence the hey with the hatef patak. Hey with the hatef patak, what we call the interrogative particle. We don't have punctuation marks like a question mark. Rather, we have these interrogative particles. So let's just look at the example. Again, you'll recognize some of the words, but not the first one, which is a verb. Shalach, shalach. Sorry to get that patak. Shalach, shalach. The verb in historical narrative appears generally as you're moving along the sequence of the story as the initial element of the sentence. So, Shalach Hamelech, so the king sent. We don't have any time clues to know whether this is past or present or future. So, just generally, we translate this verb form as the past uh, for these examples here. So, Shalach Hamelech, and then we have the definite direct object marker. I like what Ben said, it's the indicator, 8. Right? It's indicating what's coming next, what's receiving the action, what's in the accusative case. So 8, Hanavi, Hanavi, right? So the definite article, hey with the patak, the doubling of the next consonant with the dagesh forte, in this case in the nun, and then the navi are nouns. So the king sent, who did the king send? Et Hanavi. He sent the prophet, right? Shalach Hamelech et Hanavi. But if we wanted to ask a question, we attach the interrogative particle, hey, with the hatef patak to the first word of that sentence, in this case it being the verb. So, ha-shalach, ha-shalach Hamelech et Hanavi. Ha-shalach Hamelech et Hanavi. Did the king send the prophet? Just to look at the summary statements regarding the interrogative particle, page 72. Prefix to most consonants is going to be hey with the hatef patak, as in the example that we've just seen. Or number 2, you might see it if it's prefixed to a guttural consonant or something that has a schwa there. It might become a hey with a patak. I know that looks a lot like a definite article, but you won't see the dagesh forte in most cases. And again, it comes down to context, context. Usually, interrogative statements, questions, if you will, appear in direct discourse, in dialogue, in conversation, or sometimes in prophetic material. And you can tell that the prophet or God, through the prophet or God himself, is asking a question. So, context, context, and what's that other word? Yes, context. Good job. Number 3, it can be when it's prefixed to a guttural consonant followed by a comment. So you might end up having the hey with the segel. Again, I know that looks like a definite article when it's bumping up against some of the guttural letters. Context, context, and I think you know the third one. Avoiding confusion between that interrogative particle with the definite article. So here's the clues they give you, if it helps. Interrogative particle does not normally have an associated dagesh forte. Unfortunately, sometimes it does for ease of utterance. Context, context, context. It's not a safety valve. It's not an excuse. It's not crazy rationalization. It's the reality of language. Language is in context. How about statement number 2? With some frequency, interrogative participles can be prefixed to a verbal form or even another particle. So if you see something attached to a verb, you're like, well, maybe that's not going to be a definite article because we wouldn't expect that. So it's got to be a interrogative particle. And normally you're not going to have a definite article attached to another particle because a definite article is specifying something. And so that may help you notice that this is an interrogative particle. As it says here with the second statement in number 2, verbs and particles will not take the definite article. And lastly, number 3, the hatef patak of the interrogative particle, as it appears with most consonants, is not one of the spellings of the definite article. So if you remember back to your grammar card regarding the definite article, you won't see it as hey with a hatef patak.